What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another vid. It's a little bit different, this one, but what the hell. Parks and Wildlife still haven't issued me my commercial filming permit, so I'm a little bit restricted on content. So I figure I got to get creative, and we've got a few things that we can look at today which should be pretty interesting. Now, first cab off the rank, my business license. I'm in the third month of waiting, and I've had absolutely zero feedback on how the application is going. Now, when I first put this application in, because they gave me threatened court proceedings for not having one, I was told that it was only going to take 1 to 2 weeks because it was quite a simple process. It was just me applying for a photography permit as opposed to the tourism operator's permit, which the department normally caters for. But 3 months in and nothing. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a little look at the way that things are going for Tasmanian Parks and Wildlife Service, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of advice on where I think we should go from here, because it doesn't look like they're doing a very good job at handling all the reserves that they've kind of been given custodianship of. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, they've just implemented a $15 charge to use their crappy shuttle bus that literally nobody wanted implemented in the state, because we used to just be able to drive our cars to Cradle Mountain, but now they've boom gated the hell out of it, and you've got to buy a day pass for $27.95 and also a shuttle pass for 15 bucks just to visit Cradle Mountain National Park. Now, they reckon that they're trying to recuperate $3 million to run these crappy shuttle buses. That works out at about 8,000 bucks per day just in the buses that they're running. It doesn't make sense. So they're sticking it to the public. It used to be $27.95 to access Cradle Mountain National Park, which included the shuttle, by the way. In their own terms, it says it included the shuttle. So I'll be very interested to see what that price reverts back to when people have to pay for their own shuttle expense. It should be $27.95 minus 15 bucks. If all is fair, but it won't be. Now you might think, well, that's not that bad really, is it? Yeah, it is. It's absolutely ridiculous. They shouldn't even be charging to visit these national parks. They don't do anything on them except for build insane $1 million infrastructure on World Heritage areas, and then sting people who want to go and visit them. It's just BS. So I want to shine a light on some of the other areas you can visit around Tassie that do not require you to pay a single cent. I'm going to encourage you to get your footprint out of the national parks and into these reserves that need protection, because these are the areas that I'm in all the time and I never see a single person, and these are the areas that need exposure. But first of all, let's have a look at what's happened in my business license application. So it was about 2.5 months ago now I put it in. That was all good. Made a little bit of an uproar on the media. That was sweet. Christy Johnson, local MP, went to Parliament and asked directly Roger Yance, the Minister of Parks, what he thinks about the impact that this will have on the tourism in Tasmania.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Parks. Minister, outdated parks legislation is costing Tasmania significant tourism income. This legislation is
And you might think, how much income? Well, I can tell you right now, I know a handful of creators who have not come to Tasmania purely because of this ridiculous rule.
And takes scant account of modern social media platforms. For example, Mr. Speaker, a wedding photographer shooting on a beach, a professional TikToker and social media influencer walking the overland track, or someone reviewing camping gear on YouTube is all potentially in breach of this legislation. Minister, the media report that the Park Service has pursued 2 YouTube creators whose only crime is to promote how wonderful Tassie is, encouraging people to come and see it for themselves. The danger is, if word gets out that Tasmania is prosecuting social media influencers or charging large fees to film each time, these influencers won't want to promote Tassie, and we lose out on a new and key platform of advertising for our beautiful island. Minister, do you accept our 2002 legislation is no longer fit for purpose, and we urgently bring to this House amendments to bring our laws into line with other states and into the modern social media platform era?
So she's asking if he accepts that the 2002 legislation is outdated, because that's the legislation that they got me on, which was to film a video or take photo for monetary gain on any reserve, including Crown land, that Parks and Wildlife manage. This is not just national parks. This is not just World Heritage. Okay, those zones amount to a very small fraction of the amount of reserves. In fact, probably around 5% is national parks, and the 95% is regional reserves, conservation areas, Crown land, etc., in which this same rule applies. Right? So let's hear Roger's take on this.
Honourable Minister.
That's really going to go well.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Member for her question, her interest, and we agree that images and filming of areas managed by parks can make a significant contribution to helping raise awareness and interest of conservation issues and promoting the appreciation and visitation of our natural areas. We make no complaint about that, and we agree with it. And in the past, it's been a very important part.
Why only in the past? Why is it not important now? Oh, that's right. Because everybody's already done all the hard work and you can sit there and milk all the profit from it now.
Of promoting Tasmania and the beautiful, unique places we have for people to come and visit, which we also support. That areas are part of an economic driver for our state.
For your state, Roger.
Apologies for that.
For your state.
However, there is a need to assess proposed filming activities.
Yeah, we need to assess them.
ensure that they don't damage natural or cultural values.
Never.
Or conflict with the enjoyment of other users.
Never.
Or incorrectly present information or
Never.
show inappropriate activities which aren't allowed for in those areas.
A couple of times, which I apologise for and paid $700 fines for, actually. And on this whole inappropriate activities, I paid a $700 fine for lighting a fire in a hut that has a designated fireplace that the director of Parks and Wildlife had a sign saying was okay. And then the compliance officer said to me, well, even if the sign was there, you've still got to think that the people who volunteer to maintain these huts, you know, would be heartbroken if one of your fires that you lit burnt the hut down. Yeah, sure. So you mean the Mountain Huts Preservation Society, who also even share photographs of fuel stove only areas with designated fireplaces inside of huts being shared. And get this, by a Parks and Wildlife officer. Isn't that interesting?
Their management plans. And that's why we have commercial filming permit processes in place to support the assessments that are made around individual applications like that, so that the images that are beamed around the world.
Beamed around the world, you wouldn't happen to mean, you know, the type of images that you promote your walks with, Roger, that are basically 95% drone shots. Why would anybody get the idea that you're allowed to use a drone in a national park? The places where I used my drone were in regional reserves, were in future potential forest production zones. They're basically going to be logged. And I paid a $700 fine for flying a drone in an area that has been given to forestry to log. What the hell is this guy on about? Is that not the most hypocritical thing ever? Plus, he completely dodges the question about the outdated legislation. I don't care about national parks and World Heritage. I don't need to shoot in those places. There's so many other reserves that are just as magic and don't have as many visitors that I would like to be able to shoot in. Anyway.
Show our beautiful places, but also how appropriately to enjoy them. Not to be in the wrong place, not to light fires where you shouldn't, not to do other things.
Not to light fires where you shouldn't, yeah. Okay, well here's a documentary which came out 6 months ago with a Parks and Wildlife officer lighting a fire on the banks of the Gordon River.
The rangers know full well that this vulnerable forest needs to be protected.
To spend a night up here in the far reaches of the Gordon River, where many miles from any road, many miles from any habitation, and it's a truly awesome experience.
What do you think about that, Roger? You'll probably turn a blind eye to that, hey? Thought you would.
Particularly when the producers of that content are doing so for commercial gain.
For commercial gain. Does this idiot know how much I make per YouTube video? I don't think a couple of $100 even covers fuel and food for the amount of effort, let alone the time spent away, the time editing, to share what I love doing with other people. Like, does he think I'm a freaking millionaire or something?
To make sure that there is not business undertaken in these public reserves where natural values are very important. And
the only business that's allowed in these reserves are the ones that line their pockets. Don't forget that, people.
For people to profit from, in some cases,
like you,
doing the wrong thing. So what we're trying to do is make sure that everyone's aware of the licences they are required to have. There is information available on websites.
I am well aware of the licence I'm required to have. Now you need to give me one, because I've paid my fines, taken my education, and now I would like a licence, thank you. But don't forget this, Parks and Wildlife, if you're watching this, you cannot stop me making content. You can only stop me making content for the couple of $100 that I make per video, which at the end of the day, if you want to take that, that's fine. But I'm not going to stop making videos. You can get on board with me and you can have a say in how I project my voice and what I talk about, the same way that forestry has. Or, so I don't want to rant on about this for too long, and I'm sure I can make plenty more videos in the future, but I'll just say this. Don't go to the national parks anymore. Don't buy parks passes, because there are so many places in this state that are just as magic, that have the exact same values as the national parks, that are free to visit. You just have to think outside of the box. Go onto the list, type in land tenure, see where the parks are, the national parks are. There's only like 19 of them or something. There's so much more area to explore than just those national parks. And you can look at areas that border national parks. So for example, the Great Western Tiers, none of that's a national park. Like, you've got Cradle Mountain, and then you've got the Walls of Jerusalem, but then you've got the Great Western Tiers, and none of that is national park. It doesn't cost a cent to visit. So you can walk there quite easily from Mole Creek. It's like maybe half an hour up onto the Great Western Tiers. So don't go to Cradle Mountain when it snows anymore. Go to there, or just think outside the box. Freycinet, another really big place where people love to go. It's on the east coast, but the way that they've got it set up is you're basically on this main road until you get to Coles Bay. And then you've got to, of course, you need your parks pass, you know? So it's just like shooting fish in a barrel. Go north of there, go to the Bay of Fires, Bicheno, anywhere. That whole stretch of the east coast is magnificent. You don't have to go to Freycinet to have an enjoyable time in Tassie. In fact, I would argue that you would have a way more enjoyable time by exploring the places that are lesser known. If we can get more and more people to take the footprint off the national parks and spread them out elsewhere into the state, we've got to think about using these tracks that are getting overgrown and falling into disrepair. We need to get out and just use these areas that people are forgetting about, because the more and more lazy that people get, the better roads they put in for these kind of like theme park attractions, and they control the monopoly. You got to take that power away. You got to get outside of there. Way more places to explore. Instead of going to the Gordon River, you could go to the Pieman River. It's not in a national park. You can do kayaking there, you can do fishing, you can take your boat in there. They're closing access to the Gordon. You're only allowed to take your boat a certain way now, because they're saying that, you know, the wake from the boats is destroying the riverbanks. There's pining families that have, you know, been in that area their whole generation after generation and fought for that place. You know, you look at the Gordon Dam blockade in the 80s, those pioneer families, the Morrisons, they were down there defending that place. Now they're not even allowed to like travel past a certain point. Parks and Wildlife, the power is just getting out of control with these freaks. So I would encourage everybody to just steer clear of these areas that they're promoting, and take the back road. You're gonna enjoy it. Anyway, that's it. I just wanted to have a little bit of a rant on this, give you guys an update. Yeah, I'll see you soon for a real video.